Bow, bow, bow.
Oops, they did it again. They changed MLA. It's ninth edition. Oh, baby, oops,
Bow, bow, bow.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we are talking about our friends over at the MLA, the Modern Language Association, who apparently had a very productive COVID year at home, working at home, because those fine folks have just released the ninth edition, yes, the ninth edition of the MLA style book. I have dug into it, so you don't have to. There are a few small changes that you need to know about, and that's what today's video is. If you teach MLA citation to your kids, I got you back. I'm going to go over what you need to know and what's going to change, and a lot of what has stayed the same. Let me switch over the video like I do, and let's go. All right, so this is the one you're used to working with, the 8th edition, and here is your new friend, the ninth edition. I must admit, when I heard there was a new one coming out, I was not excited. I was like, oh no, I'm gonna have to learn a whole new system. The good news is no. The ninth edition is actually just an expansion of the 8th edition. They really haven't changed very much at all. I'd say 98% of what you've been doing with the 8th edition still applies to the ninth, so you're good to go for most things, and I'm gonna go over that little 2% for you right now, so it's not a big deal. In fact, I was pretty impressed with the ninth edition because they have expanded their explanation of a lot of things that were confusing classroom teachers and students with this whole containers thing that they introduced in the 8th edition. The differences between the 7th and the 8th edition were massive, right? Remember back in 2016, that's when they gave us the containers and we had to wrap our brains around that. Happily, they have not messed with it. It's working. They've just given a ton more, I'd say hundreds more of visual examples in the 9th edition. So we're going to go ahead and shelve this one. Ask your librarian to pick up a copy of this one. If you're a middle school or high school teacher, I don't think you need your own copy. Just having one at the reference desk at the library would be fine. If you're a college professor, you're probably going to want to pick one up because you guys get real in the weeds with the research in a way that us secondary folks don't. The 9th edition is also nice for students to have because it has a big grammar section that it didn't have before. This book is like twice as large as the 8th edition, so that's impressive. They're kind of making it more like a textbook now, so it has a big grammar section, it has writing advice, it has advice about being mindful of using inclusive language in your academic papers. It has a section on endnotes and footnotes. They do this brand new section on annotated bibliographies. I don't do annotated bibliographies with my high school students because that's just some like next level stuff. But again, you college folks might find that really interesting, so it would be worthwhile to pick that up. All right, just a reminder of what all of this looks like. If you're brand new to MLA and you're like, I don't even know what the 8th edition was talking about, this is what the 8th edition was talking about. Welcome to containers. So basically, when students are doing research, we have to have a protocol for them to organize that research in a way that it's very easy to retrace their steps. And that's what the MLA gives us, a way that all academics kind of agree that this is how the information is going to be presented. And back in 2016, by the way, I cannot believe it's been 5 years since an update. It feels like 5 minutes ago, but no, it was 5 years ago they brought this little guide to us. So the first and the second entry, author and title of source, are pretty straightforward and easy for kids to just put in their citation. Steps 3 through 9 is where we get a little fuzzy because you don't need all of them. In fact, rarely have I seen a citation where all 9 elements are at play. Instead, you often see something like this. And I put this very, very basic example because, again, I'm just teaching the basics to my kids. And I just wanted to remind you of what a proper citation looks like. This would be on a works cited page, the last page of an essay. And the entries are put in alphabetical order. And I'll show you what that looks like in just a few minutes. But basically, here is a straightforward citation of a book that I have used something from the chunk of pages 73 to 84. Maybe I paraphrased a story from Stephen King's life. By the way, this book is great if you want to be a writer. It's one of my favorites on writing, but there you go. So this is a proper citation and it uses just 5 of 9 possible elements. I just wanted to lay it down for you so you could see what it looks like as we get into all this stuff. What I like about the 9th edition though is they go for it. In their examples, they have all kinds of interesting ways to think about containers, right? Because a container could be a book, like I just showed you, but a container can be a YouTube channel. A container could be a social media channel. So for here is an example that they gave us in the webinar that they went over. So let's say you want to cite a TV episode that's hosted on a YouTube channel. So that's a container within a container. So they gave us this example of season 10, episode 3 of MASH, and bam! The folks over at the MLA, they show you exactly how to do it. And you can freeze if you want to hit pause if you want to take a look at what that looks like. Or let's say you in your paper want to cite a tweet from an author, Celeste Ng, who wrote Little Fires Everywhere, and she put this really cool letter from Shirley Jackson on her Twitter handle. How do you cite somebody's social media handle? Bam! 9th edition has you covered. So you can send kids to the handbook to look up all kinds of wacky scenarios that they might get themselves into with their research. And yes, you can cite a Twitter handle or an Instagram post, all citable, all published. All right, so what's changed? What's that 2% that we need to think about? Well, good news, most of it really doesn't change things for us high school teachers at least. College folks, you're on your own. All right, one of the things that surprised me was they actually have softened their position just a little bit on the necessity of including the full URL on the works cited page. So our kids almost primarily now are citing websites and databases that we give subscription access to. So the recommendation from the MLA is that the full URL is still used, but they do say it's optional. And there's a couple of different reasons, but basically one is sometimes kids are citing stuff that's behind a paywall. And so they'll do the web address, but then you click on it on the works cited page and you get stuck. And so you can't actually access it, which can be problematic. Other times the kid copies the URL and it's like 2 pages of gobbledygook because it has all the query information and all of that. So they do say from time to time, it's okay for students to shorten the URL as long as there's enough core information in the citation for me, the reader, to retrace their steps and get to it. And then if I want to buy a subscription to that academic journal, I can, but at least it gets me down the path so I can kind of weigh the quality of the source they're using. They say that's okay. I'm still going to push for, whenever possible, the full URL, because I like having that clickable link in the works cited so that if I am questioning a kid's source, I can just click on it and go look at what they were looking at. And that's really good. That's the reason we use them in the first place. Interestingly, they now want us to, and this is different than the 8th edition, include what they call the web protocol, the HTTP : or the S for secure, because some web browsers need that in order to make that link live and functional. So they told us in the 8th edition, cut it, because I think they just thought it gunked up the page. It was redundant, but actually it turns out a lot of computers still need it. So that is a change that I'll be teaching my kids, to go ahead and include the HTTP. They have changed the wording of supplemental information from optional to supplemental. This is more for the college folks. My kids really didn't ever get into the weeds with this one. But let's say you have a book that's an anthology and you want to cite a story within that anthology. And so you have authors, number 1, and title of sources, number 2. But then that story was translated by somebody into your language. It would be supplemental to include the name of the translator because they were probably instrumental in making some decisions about how that story is read, or how it's, the messages that are communicated. So I think they just wanted to say that it's not optional. You are supplementing the source, the citation, with that extra information. So that's cool. You can change it to that. Again, that's not something my kids were ever doing. If I could just get author and title of source, I was good. I didn't really get into the whole optional and now what we're calling supplementals. In the publication date section, this is a tiny little nitpicky thing. They actually are advising us now to lowercase seasons. So if a kid is citing a magazine or a journal that comes out, say, 4 times a year, instead of capital F for fall, 2021, lowercase f for fall. And the rationale from the MLA folks was just that that's how natural language works. And so we're going to try to stay as close to the natural language as possible. Even if the publication capitalizes the F in fall, you can go ahead and lowercase it. It's no big deal. I'm not going to get that bent out of shape about that with my kids, but it is in the rule book. So I want you to be aware of it. It is a change. And then finally, one change that does affect the handouts that I actually give to my kids is in the fourth category. And I'll show you in a second. They have changed what we used to call other contributors to contributor. And so on my handout, I give my kids something that looks like this, and then they fill in the information, which helps them keep track of their research as they go. So I did change number 4 on my handouts just to be in alignment with 9th edition. So change other contributors to contributor. I know, nitpicky, but it is what it is. Good news, 98% of the stuff is still the same. So all of the formatting for your front page and your works cited pages are exactly the same as they've always been. If you want to freeze this and zoom in, feel free. The only changes that I see are just the inclusion on the works cited page of the http:/// as I mentioned before. Also the same are the punctuation of the container items. So after author, it's a period. After title, it's a period. But then items 3 through 9 are strung together with commas for whichever ones you have until the end, and that's a period. So it's just like it was before, you guys. I like that there's an emphasis in the new materials, just like there was in 8th edition, that there are multiple ways to cite a source. So a student should use what information they have in front of them to make their steps retraceable. And if one website has more information than another website that has the exact same article, I would never penalize a student because one website had more information. If I can go to the one they went to and I can read the stuff they read, then I'm good. So I liked that there are multiple ways. Like it's not like it has to be exactly this container information or you fail the paper. That's silly. As long as I can retrace it, we're good. Oh, they kept a weird little P period, PP period thing. So this was fun back in the 8th edition. This was a little change. For material from a single page, you just use P period. If it's a range of pages, you still use the PP. Period. I thought that was fun. All right, so I have materials that I have updated. Maybe you've used my stuff for the 8th edition. If you had those old 8th edition materials, you don't need to pay for the updates. Just go back into your account over at my shop. I'll put a link down there. You can re-download those updates. Updates are free. You already paid for it. You don't have to repay for the updates. That'd be silly. But if you've never taught MLA or you just want to know the basics, I do have a packet of materials to help you with that. I have slide deck information to lead kids through visual examples. I have handouts, reference sheets that they can use all year long. And I even turned the handouts into Google Drive versions because we're on a digital world now, and that's what we're doing. See, I told you it's not that big a deal. So if you made it to the end of the video, you are already way ahead of the game, my friends, because a lot of the online citation generators that I looked at, they're still rocking the 8th edition. They're not even aware that 9th edition is out there. So on your next semester, you can hit the ground running and you'll have all the information you need. All right, that is it for this week. I hope you're enjoying summer vacation. You know, Tennessee has something called humidity, and I'm going to be filming inside for quite a while. All right, that's it. Hope you guys are well. Watch another video. Stay inside. Enjoy air conditioning. It's muggy out there. All right, bye, guys.
Bow, bow, bow.